very much, Mr. Slim.
Aquí o ahí?
No, stay here, please.
Okay, thank you.
So provocative. I think you've given us a year's worth of future conferences with all the topics you've laid out here, so thank you for that. I do want to focus on one word from your first slide, which is innovation. And to get innovation right, you have to get the culture right of companies. So I'd really love to get some of your views on that. You've owned so many companies, you've invested in so many companies over the years. Tell us about what you've learned about culture, the do's, the don'ts. What do you see that works right? What do you see that works wrong?
Well, I think innovation is inherent to human beings. Since the beginning, the Homo habilis, the Neanderthal, the Homo erectus, etc., they get innovations. They make tools from the rocks. They make tools to hunt. They make many things that they were making this evolution. And this has been part of the human being development. They find out that when the glaciation finished, they arrived to valleys rich in food, rich in flora and fauna, and instead of being nomads, they stay 10,000 years ago, they begin to be sedentarian. And they see the food grow, the plants grow, the flowers, the river available, and they begin to develop agriculture. And then they go doing agriculture, they find that they need to make irrigation, and all innovation is coming by the people that has been creative, and as much as they live socially and sedentary, they begin to look how make things better. They begin to make laws, they begin to find solutions to many things. They begin to see the sky, to look the weather, to find the seasons after, and then they find how to use numbers, and they develop the writing. Before the writing, they develop the language to speak each other, to communicate, and I think we have lived always in innovation. And innovation comes in many ways, but always people is looking how to do things different. The innovation came when you are not the inertial society, that you use things the same always. I think one of the problems of the communism, and we looked at when in 1989 things changed, is that they used to do the same thing always. And we find that Germany, they say East Germany was very efficient, but they were doing the same equipment that they make 40 years ago or 30 years ago. That's the difference between repeating the same things always because bureaucratic position, or to begin to think how to do things better. And always when some of us go to a business, and we were hearing that from General Electric and from Tony, you need to have not only the leadership to organize the people, but to look how you can do things better. And I think one of the most important advances of the world in this new technology society is US, that is looking how to do things better. The innovation, let's say Uber. Well, Uber exists before, you remember when they were taxis, but they were CTOs of taxis. Taxis they were stopped that you call the taxis and they send, well, they make it in a better way. Amazon make it also with innovating something very old like commerce. And what we are seeing in all these applications is to do what should be used, what used to be used or make for thousands of years or hundreds of years or many years in a different way by using the new tools how to do these things.
Okay. So I've interviewed more than 400 CEOs for Corner Office, and I ask every person the following question. How do you hire? What questions do you ask? You invest in so many companies, you buy companies, you have to assess whether the CEO is going to stay or whether you have to replace them. So I'd love to hear some details about how you do that. What questions do you ask? If you're assessing the CEO of a new company, how do you decide whether they stay on the bus or not?
You will don't believe, but I have many years that I don't hire anyone. I have my team is 3 people, a secretary and 2 bellboys or drivers. But I don't like I don't think that it's important to have the corporative organization because they exercise power against the operators, and you need to leave operators to work. What I do is work with the people that we have. I don't know, I don't hire them, but there are different ways to hire. You know, we have many people working in the organization. And in many activities, I talk with them, not only with the CEOs, but like 2 or 3 levels or 4, and get in contact. And in these points, and with these discussions and talking about problems and solving challenges and looking, that is how I evaluate the people, how I know the people. And then the people that I look that is good because of his attitude and his knowledge and his interest to work and his leadership, those I push them and I give them more responsibility, etc.
So you're a billionaire many times over. Everybody here is a future billionaire. So what is your best business advice? If you could really pick one thing that is your best piece of business advice.
My family. Really?
Do tell.
My family.
In terms of how to...
I think what is clear is that family is very, how you say, supportive for business, for the economic activity or for professional activity. And I think it's the most important issue, your personal life. Doesn't matter if you have 1 million or 1 billion or whatever. I wait that Trump that is talking about making great U.S. It's like a history of a man that make his family millionaires. They were billionaires. No, U.S. is great. U.S. is great because immigrants, because innovation, because people is always thinking how to do things better. That's the big difference. Well, Silicon Valley is the big thing. How we don't have Silicon Valley in every country, and every city want to make his Silicon Valley, thinking that is something easy to repeat. But you have this interest to make things all the time different, better. Inertia is always a big problem. Inertia, when you do things in some way and you think that you should everything make the things in the same way without looking ahead, without looking alternatives, you get in the bad way.
I could ask you questions all night, but I do want to share with there's a hand right there. Again, if you could stand up and introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Robin Richards, Chairman and CEO of Career Art Group. Thanks for coming, Mr. Slum. I know you have a lot of options. Mexico has, by all accounts, 30 to 40 million people moving into the middle class, 3rd in the world, behind China and India. What is stopping Mexico from becoming the shop floor of the world? Shouldn't it, with labor prices good in Mexico, energy prices good worldwide, that is the composite, expense of manufacturing. Shouldn't Mexico, or could Mexico become the new China? Could Mexico become the new manufacturing plant for the world, certainly the North American world?
I think one of our problems is exactly the people that come to work here. The people that move to U.S. to work is the best one. The people that emigrates is people very strong, without any fear, not fear to to challenges, don't feel fear to change, don't fear of to nothing. And we are losing all these people in the last years because we don't give the opportunities in Mexico. And why we don't give these opportunities in Mexico? I think one of the big points is what I was telling, like the first point, that governments take public works, they have owned the oil company, is the monopoly, the energy, electric energy is the monopoly, and they have many activities without the participation of the private sector. And the investments, there is a lack of investment, a lack of efficiency, and I think this has been a very big problem. And we have a lot of infrastructure to do, and with these low interest rates, there is a big market and a big opportunity to make all these projects feasible because the cost of money and the availability of money. I think is the problem that governments are not efficient, don't move like they should move, and that's where we're telling that all this area should be done with public-private partnership or be financing by the pension funds, et cetera, but we move very slowly in this direction. And that's what I think is the lack we have. If we think now the oil is $20, $30, $35, but a few years ago was going to 150, 130. We don't use this opportunity of a lot of money from oil, a lot of money available for financing, a lot of capital to finance our development, and we don't use it. In summary, we need to have more economic activity, and the government should be more open to leave all this investment to be done. By second point, U.S. is doing something that I think was not a good idea. Changing with China, assets for goods. You receive goods and you give assets. Treasuries, whatever, but you give assets. I think it has been a mistake because you have done not only a big transfer of wealth, but a big transfer of technology. That is very important. I think that Mexico is a great opportunity for U.S. corporations to make the investments, to buy the goods in Mexico, to produce the goods in Mexico and bring them here. And the auto industry is the best example. That is very efficient, like you say, salaries are low, energy is low, and it's a big opportunity to do that. And especially now that China is moving his model from low salaries, they have increased extraordinarily the salaries. Now the salaries in China are a lot bigger than they used to be 10 or 15 years ago, maybe less than 5 years ago to 10 years ago, and Mexican salaries are a lot lower. I think that's a big opportunity for Mexico and for U.S.
We have time for one final question.
I love your vision of 3 days of work and longer work life. Have you actually seen major companies do that in Mexico? And what does it take to make that institutionalized so GE will do that as a routine matter?
That's good. Thank you, because I hear some very nice comments, but
Sure. The notion, the future of companies that have just a 3-day work week. Do you see that a possibility?
I think it will be not by law. It will be lower. Let's say in Telmex in Mexico, we have a very bad contract because the company came from the government. Today, after 25 years, we change, but people retire at 53 years. If they say that they will retire at 75 and only work 3 days, we will make a party. What we have done is voluntary, that they stay 5 years more to 58, and they work only 4 days, 8 hours. Which is the future? Depending which is the company, but if you can have people working 3 days, and you can put another how you say, team or workers working the other 3 days, you will have 6 days working, 11 hours, something like that. I think that some companies should begin to do that. But instead of retiring at 65 or 60, they should retire at 75. I don't know if I explained. Which are the companies that can do that very easy? Or in some way, it's not easy, but all these companies that have too much people, that they have too much people, they can make adjustments of lower time or lower days, and to move the people instead of taking them out, the cost can be different of the skills to have them. And to begin with governments or by education. Governments can do that because they have so much people that they can begin to do some kind of movements in this way. But what is clear, I think we cannot discuss that, is that today people work less than 80 years ago and like 100 years ago. In the past, I think so many of you remember, we worked 48 hours, no? And we call English week to not work Saturday. It was 40 years ago. But I think that as much as technology advanced, productivity increased so much, machines are faster and wider and bigger, and everything is done with more efficiency. When you are avoiding the biggest bookstore doesn't have any bookstore. The biggest seller of books, the bigger school like Salman Khan, Khan Academy doesn't have a classroom. As much as you begin to be so efficient and take out people from work, from the traditional works, you need to solve the problem of the employment. And the way I see to solve this problem is, the only way is working 3 days, more years. Also, when you make 70 years, you know that most of the governments are bankrupt because they don't have money for the pension funds. That's something that should be solved with more days working.
So please join me in thank you, Mr. Slim. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't know what, not very clear.
That's all. Thank you. I'll bring up Charles Duhigg.